We have the newest Marvel television show streaming now on Disney Plus, Wonder Man. I finally checked it out, but what did I actually think of this series? So when it comes to the Wonder Man series, I wasn't necessarily overhyped or excited for this new show. I do know of the character of Wonder Man from the comics, but it's one of those characters that I'm kind of not necessarily an expert on or, know a whole lot about. So I just went into this series, just hoping for a good show about a new character that we got in the MCU. And with this series, this is not necessarily an origin story. You don't actually get to see how he got his powers. Honestly, in the series, it's unclear how his powers actually manifested. There's no showing of him trying to understand his powers, if like how he actually got them, or how he ends up controlling them. You won't get any of that in this series. You're honestly just plopped down into the middle of this story, into the middle of this character, and you just go along for the ride. One of the highlights I say for the series that we get is the dynamic we get between Yahya Abdul-Mateen II and Ben Kingsley's characters. Like, it's a fun dynamic in the series, and really with Ben Kingsley's character of Trevor Slattery, he almost acts as a mentor towards Simon Williams. And within the runtime of this series, you actually do get like emotionally invested within the character of Simon Williams. You start to understand his character, you start to feel for him. You see how he's a struggling actor, so it gives you more emotional beats to get invested in, as you can see his passion for acting. But being emotionally connected to the character of Simon Williams, there might be some areas where you might actually get a tad bit frustrated with the character, because you see the passion he has for acting and all, but he kind of lets that passion go a little too far as he tries to make suggestions for characters. He tries to gather information, tries to get backstory on the characters just to understand the characters and try to see if he can actually play the role better. But sometimes throughout the series, you see that it actually gets in his way sometimes. And you see the reaction from producers and directors on how he's kind of pushing that. It's almost like a self-sabotage kind of thing, but it's basically like an unwilling self-sabotage because he doesn't necessarily understand or know that he's doing that. He doesn't like grasp the fact that he's actually doing it. And you see how he just takes things a little too far. He's overthinking things to where it actually does kind of get in the way. And with this series, it doesn't necessarily feel like a superhero comic book type of show. It honestly has a sort of meta commentary going on, as this is like based in like, it's based in the MCU, but it's also based in like the real world. You don't get major MCU connections. You have cameos from actual celebrities from our world in here. And it kind of just shows you that side of Hollywood to, just different sides of Hollywood, and especially when it comes to like the audition sides to being an actor and all. Like going out there and trying to book roles, trying to book jobs. So it's not like you get superhero action in here. You don't see Simon Williams using his powers a whole lot. You get glimpses here and there. Most of the time throughout the series, he's spending most of his time trying to hide his powers. And like I was saying before, you don't really get many MCU connections with this series. There's little hints and nods really in this part, and mainly the most MCU connection you're going to get is with Trevor Slattery's character, and they mentioned how he was the Mandarin back in Iron Man 3 and all that stuff. That's really like the only major MCU connections you're going to get. Other than that, you really don't get too many in this series. But when it was all said and done, after checking out this series, all 8 episodes, I gotta say this one is probably one of the better MCU series that we've gotten. Honestly, I enjoyed watching this series. And honestly, I like the character of Simon Williams. Of Wonder Man in general, if that's what he's going to be going by, if that's what they're going to end up calling him. I'm also curious, like, when is he going to show up again? With the way that the series actually ended, it's curious. I'm curious, like, how the series ended. When is he going to show up again? If Trevor Slattery is going to show up again, also, like, how would they bring him into the main MCU, and how will he, like, be with other characters? Questions all about, like, if we're going to get the answers to those questions. We'll see. But honestly, this one was enjoyable.